Good afternoon, everybody, and sorry for all of the difficulties. We are now recording, so now I can officially say welcome to the Veritas Prep GRE course. And I certainly hope that this goes better than the first 20 minutes did getting us over here. If you want to type in your location and the degree that you're seeking, we'll just see where you guys are at. Type in the location and the degree that you're seeking, and we'll see where everybody's coming from, okay? You like the hand-drawn map, Travis? Okay, good. We have Leonard in San Diego. We have Tate at Fort Bragg. So what are we looking for? No, the degree you're seeking. Yeah, the degree that we're seeking. Right. Travis is in Los Angeles. Leonard's looking for a master's in finance. I'm going to say Zidane is University of Oklahoma, MS in mechanical engineering. Cheryl is in Texas looking for an MPA. Vanessa, you're the only one on the map right there. Montreal, PhD in administration. Oklahoma City, Zidane, okay. Naomi, Washington, D.C., looking for an MS in information systems. Annie's in Seattle. Seeking an MS in CS, Masters of Science in Computer Science. It looks like Annie, we could use a Masters of Science in Computer Science about 30 minutes ago. Jose is in Englewood, New Jersey, looking for an MBA. Here comes some more folks. There we go. Now we're getting some more. We almost got everybody, I think. We're getting there. And Jose is looking for actually an MBA and a master's in engineering double degree. Okay. As I mentioned, is almost everybody gone? Okay, I think almost everybody's in here now. We just had 4 more people join. As I mentioned, the only person that's on the map here, my map, is Vanessa in Montreal. Dave, you made it. Yeah, that's the biggest thing for today, is to actually get into the right room. Sorry about that, Dave. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm about 3 hours from Boston, and I know that because I drove back from the airport last night. About 3.5 hours from Boston up like this. About an hour and a half from Montreal. So that's where I'm at here in Vermont. My name's David Newland. You may not have noticed it because of the way things started today, but I've taught over 200 courses with Veritas. I've taught over 100 courses alone just on the whiteboard. Before that, I actually went down to Boston to teach a lot, drove down there, Montreal, things like that. But this is what I do for a living, guys. This is what I do. I teach the GMAT, the GRE. I used to teach the LSAT, and I helped write the books, the last several editions of the books. But this is it, teach, tutor, articles. I've got a GRE podcast. I was interviewed for a podcast. That one's going to come out pretty soon. Oh, good morning from San Francisco. Good morning. Good, Renee. And Los Angeles as well. Am I near Messina, New York? Messina, New York's going to be over here somewhere. Dave, it's going to be kind of like that. So not too far away. Okay, good. So that's that. Let's talk a little bit about the GRE. Oh, we've got some more good typing coming in there. So by the way, you guys are not on the microphone, and in fact, we don't have you use the microphone. We tried that once, and it actually got a little bit crazy. Hold on just a second. I got to type one quick thing in. If I could type. I've definitely got somebody trying to log in with the iPad or the iPhone. It's all going to switch over at some point, but the YouTube thing is just not as good. I promise you. I know, Cheryl. I know. They're going to have to change that. I know. People want to see it on their pad. I understand. I promise you this is a better system. It's all Skynet. If we look at, we're going to have to really, all of us are just going to have to kind of put the past behind us here. So number 3, page number 3, we have a couple of pyramids on page 3. Okay, we have a couple of pyramids right here on page 3. So we have the bottom level of the pyramid. This, if we're looking in the book, we're in the Foundations of GRE Logic. It's book number 1. So that's the name of this lesson. So it's Foundations of GRE Logic. If anybody wants to put the link to the PDF, because the PDF is in your book, in your account under resources. But there's also a link. So if anybody is using the PDF, just put the link in there for those who may still need that. If you don't have the actual book in front of you. This is, this is page 3. There we go. Okay. All right, page 3 on that book. If you are looking in your account, if you look under resources, you will find where there we go. That should do it. That should get you in there. Thanks, Ann. That should get you in there. Close that one. Sorry, just one second. As you can see, I'm trying to just put everything together here. Wow. All right, so here we go. So we're lesson number 1. That's right. Thanks, Ann. Lesson number 1. Is it Ann or Annie? Is it just Ann with an E? Ann with an E, right? Just Ann. Okay. Like, yeah, just Ann. Right. Like Ann Shirley. Yep. Cool. Okay. So the bottom level of the pyramid of what's called Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. If you're going to do anything with learning, you've got to have that bottom level, which is remembering and understanding. That's where the skill builder comes in with Veritas. Remembering and understanding, that's where that skill builder comes in. Okay? And so what that means is that when you come to class, you will have done the skill builder hopefully before class. Now, tomorrow's lesson is arithmetic, and we're going to get that one started right on time. I'm going to send an email again like an hour before class with the link again to make sure that we're good to go, because this is a big lesson. This arithmetic for tomorrow, that's a big lesson, and it's got quite a skill builder. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that yet, the skill builder takes us to page 80. 80 pages of skill builder. That's that bottom, that base level of understanding and remembering. So the skill builder is in the book, Zidane, which Anne has put the link to the book up there. Go to lesson 2 on the PDF. The first 80 pages of the PDF is the skill builder. There's also different ways to get there. Yeah. But at the beginning of the book, I'll show you which lessons have skill builders. It's not every lesson, but it's definitely the first few math lessons for sure have the skill builder. So I'll show you which ones have that. So the skill builder is before the class. Skill builder is before class. Now, skills meet strategy In terms of the pyramid, this is analyzing and applying that knowledge. Okay? So this is what we do in the lesson. We take that information and then we put that in the lesson and you learn how to apply that information. And then think like the test maker is the level of evaluating and creating. And this is also part of the lesson. The lesson is think like the test maker and skills meet strategy, okay? So you're not only going to learn how to apply the information, but you're also going to learn how the test maker is able to fool you into thinking that you've got the right answer when you don't. Because you guys have to listen to this now. You know, I used to teach high school, I used to teach college. I found that I like this a lot better. But, you know, when I taught those lessons in high school and in college, if 100% of people got 100% on each exam, that would have been perfect, right? That's what you want as a teacher. 100% getting 100% right. If 100% of people get a question right on the GRE, they throw that question out. Because what good is a question if nobody misses it? And if 100% of people got every question right, they fire the test writer. Because they've got to write questions that people miss. In fact, think about this. When you talk about think like the test maker, they have to write questions that people have paid to take this exam, they've studied for the exam, they're working very hard to get the right answer. And yet, only say 1% of people get the question right. Can you imagine? Okay, there's not a lot of questions where 99% get it wrong. But there are a lot of questions where 80% of people get the question wrong and 20% get it right. They have to write questions where the vast majority of people get the question wrong no matter how hard they're trying. So how do they do that? That's how we're going to think like the test maker. We're going to figure out how these guys are able to get us to pick the wrong answer. So we're not only going to say, why is the right answer right? When we think like the test maker, we're not only going to figure out why the right answer is right, we're also going to say, why was the wrong answer wrong? Because there's only one right answer, except for the ones where, you know, there's multiple answers that are, you know, that apply. But why was the wrong answer wrong, and especially why is the wrong answer tempting? How do they get 90% of people to pick the wrong answer despite how hard those people are trying? That's what we're going to point out. Okay? So, for example, tell me something about this. So this is considered a fact right here. Okay? What do we know about x being greater than x cubed? What circumstances do you guys think that is? X is greater than x cubed. What do you guys think? Any negative number, Dave? Will it work for any negative number? Okay, what kind of negative numbers will it work for? Okay, Leonard's thinking about whether or not it's an integer. So you guys have, these are called the 3 core number properties. Here are the core number properties. Let me just give these to you right off the bat. When we're talking about quantitative comparison like this, you really need to work on core number properties. So number 1 is going to be positive, negative. Positive, negative. Number 2 is going to be non-integers. And number 3 is going to be the numbers 0 and 1. Those are the core number properties. So, Ann, you're exactly right. Negative 1 doesn't work, does it? In fact, when you think about negative numbers, watch this, guys. So here's 0. If I have x as negative 1/2, so let's say this is negative 1 right here. If I have x as negative 1/2, x cubed is negative 1/8. So not only does negative 1 not work, but any negative fraction doesn't work. Because when you cube a fraction, right, the fraction becomes smaller, well, that means less negative. So from 0 to negative 1 doesn't work here. And negative 1 itself will be even, right? This will be negative 1 and this will be negative 1. So this part doesn't work. What does work is everything greater, more negative than negative 1. So for example, if x is negative 2, negative 2 works. Because negative 2 and this is then negative 8. So negative 2 does work if x is negative 2. Okay? Anything more negative than negative 1 works. Now, what about on the positive side? Leonard, what are we thinking about with an integer? So here we can say that negative 2 is less, so b is greater. So right now b is bigger. Can we make a bigger than b? Is it possible for a to be bigger than b? So could x be greater than 0? Right? So Anne says we cannot determine. What do you guys think? Can x be greater than 0? Is there something that works in that direction? For x to be bigger than x cubed. No, it does work. Just flip your sign around, and you're almost on it. You're almost on it. Just flip that sign. Right? There you go, Naomi. Exactly. Less than 1 and bigger than 0. So between 1 and 0, this is where it also works. This is where it also works, between 1 and 0. Because if you have x equals 1/2, then x cubed equals 1/8. Okay? Only for fractions. That's right, Zidane. Only for fractions. Perfect. Okay? So that means that if we have right here x equals 1/2, then x cubed is going to equal 1/8. And so that works. So the two types of numbers that work for this, x being greater than x cubed, negative numbers that are more negative than negative 1, and fractions between 0 and 1. Now that means x could be 1/2, which is greater than 0, puts a check mark here. The answer is D. We'll talk about these answers, but the answer here would be D, because when you get more than one possible answer, that's when answer choice D comes into play. So you want to think like the test maker. There's a lot of ways to miss this question. You could only focus on the negatives. You could only focus on the fractions. You could definitely, not get in on this. So how does somebody miss this one? Well, you got to have a decent amount of knowledge. How do I prevent you from missing this one? Well, the core number properties is one of the biggest things here. The other thing is for you to have the right procedures. For you to have the right procedures. And I'm going to walk you through step-by-step procedures for quantitative comparison questions. Okay? By the way, write these down, the core number properties. In fact, if you're planning on getting a tattoo anytime in the near future, I recommend this, because they are very, very, very able to get us to miss questions by just varying up the core number. Just schedule the tattoo. Thanks, Tate. That's awesome. I don't know, some script or some block lettering. I don't know what's going to work the best there. Now, these strategies work. 0 and 1. Zidane, the numbers 0 and 1. The numbers 0 and 1 are almost magical. Anything times 0 is 0. Both of them. Yeah, both of them. Exactly. 0 times anything is 0. X times 1 is just x. 1 is like the invisible number. When you multiply by 1, when you divide by 1, it's like you didn't do anything. Okay? So, and then 0, when you multiply by 0, it just becomes 0. So 0 is kind of more of a bully, and 1 is kind of a passive warrior. These strategies work on official problems. That's why these books are where most of the homework is. For each lesson, there's homework in the books here. I also send you worksheets for just about every single lesson. Not today, but for tomorrow, for example, I'm going to send you extra worksheets on factoring, on ratios, on percents, and then you also have the homework in the quantitative lesson under arithmetic in the official book. Okay? There's one other book, by the way, while we're talking about this. There's one other book. This one's the official quantitative. So if you got the Veritas books, you should have this one. It should be either on its way. If you are just doing the PDFs and this book is not coming to you, then it needs to. So just make sure, check your email, see if this book is supposed to be coming your way. You need both of these for the homework. This one is the extra, okay? It's okay, Cheryl, it's okay. So a lot of people sign up late and aren't able to get through the entire skill builder. Come to class anyway. Definitely come to class anyway tomorrow. We'll go through the arithmetic. It's some great stuff. It's better if you've done the arithmetic. But, you know, definitely come to class tomorrow and we'll go through some great stuff. This is the extra, yeah, sorry, here it is, Dave. This is the extra book that doesn't come with this. This is the official guide to the GRE. The new edition has a female down here, but it's the one with a person on the cover. It's the only one with a person. And this one has 2 extra practice tests that is 100 problems, as well as another couple hundred problems. So, official guide to the GRE. This one has a couple extra practice tests. Is worth it. So get this one. It looks like the other 2. You were not provided with this one. You're provided with these 2. This is where the homework is. This one, yeah, this is the one you were not provided. So get this one by the end of the course because it's got 2 extra practice tests. You'll want to get that. So it's the one with the person on it. It should be the female. Either one will be fine. Okay. Instead of doing what some other companies do and writing questions that match our techniques, we came up with techniques that work on actual questions. So the techniques I'm going to show you today are going to work on all of the actual questions. Okay? Now, here's our syllabus, and I'm going to click on it so you can see the skill builders. So this syllabus is on pages 8 and 9. Syllabus is on pages 8 and 9. So week 1, this is today, Foundations of GRE Logic. This is today. We have arithmetic tomorrow. As you can see, that is in large type, bold, and red. That means that skill builder is an important one. Actually, a really important one. It doesn't have to be done by tomorrow, but you're going to want to get that done. Now, the algebra, which is a week from tomorrow, is also in big, type, bold, and red. Those are your 2 most important skill builders. So much of this exam comes down to arithmetic and algebra. Okay, so much of this comes down to arithmetic and algebra. So we want to definitely do those. Now, the one skill builder for the verbal section is vocabulary, right? So that is for Saturday. So actually, the most intense period of skill building is right now. We have tomorrow, we have Saturday, we have Sunday. That's half of your skill builders. You really only have 6 skill builders total, and 3 of them are right up front. So you really need to jump into those as best you can. You'll have time to make up on that. You will have time to make up for that. Yeah, probably about 150 pages in total. That's about right, yeah. The vocabulary skill builder is going to help you with words you don't know. It's going to help you with prefixes. It's going to help you with roots of words. It's going to help you to figure out some words that you don't know. I've also got some word lists, some GRE word lists that I'm going to send you for the vocabulary. Okay? Now, then we have critical reasoning. No, Zidane, you don't have to finish it before joining the lecture. No, do your best. Get as much of it as you can done tomorrow. I think that was a sentence. By the time we start tomorrow, get as much done as you can. But no, you can definitely come to class. It's not like you won't be able to understand. You'll be able to understand it. You'll still be able to understand. Critical reasoning, don't worry too much about that. That's a small skill builder. Then we have geometry, statistics, word problems, data analysis. So that's our 5 skill builders. As you'll notice, by the time we're done with week 3, you only have 1 skill builder left. So we're heavy on the skill builders early, and then we're light on the skill builders at the end, and that's good because you'll have more homeworks, more worksheets, you can take practice tests, right? What book? Oh yeah, that's lesson 3. Yeah, so they're in order, but look on pages 8 and 9 in book 1. That's where the syllabus is. Look on pages 8 and 9 in book 1. That's the order we go in. Thanks, Ann. Okay, so check that out. Anytime you need to, go to pages 8 and 9, book 1. All right, so the test format, you guys are probably familiar with this already, but we have analytical writing, which is the first hour. It's 30 minutes per task. Okay, you're going to analyze an issue. You're going to analyze an argument. Analytical writing is lesson 9. So we do this one in lesson 9, help you guys get those essays ready to go. That is the first hour. Now that is scored separately. It doesn't count towards your verbal score. It certainly doesn't count towards your quantitative score. So that one is scored separately. We have verbal reasoning. You're going to get 1 section of this and then 1 section of quantitative, and then you're going to get the break. So it's going to go 2 hours and 5 minutes, and then you get the break, which is 10 minutes. You only get 1 break. 2 hours and 5 minutes, and then a 10-minute break, and then you get another 3 sections. So another hour and 35 minutes or so after the break. Okay? So that's what you're looking at. The verbal reasoning, the quantitative reasoning alternate. So you're either going to go verbal, quant, verbal, or quant, verbal, quant. You'll notice there's an extra letter in there. That's because you're going to get 1 unscored section. So here you have 3 verbals, here you have 3 quantitative. Whichever type you get 3 of, 1 of them does not count. Okay? You'll not know. You'll not know. Thanks, Tate. 1 hour and 35 minutes. Yeah. Because you're going to get 3 sections. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, it's 135 minutes is totally different, isn't it, than an hour and 35 minutes. That's a scary proposition. Is the last one does not count or the lowest score does not count? No, it's neither one of those, Ann. One of them, which is unknown to you, just doesn't count at all. Okay? So it could be it could be this verbal right here in the middle, or it could be this first quantitative, or whichever. Whichever one you get 3 of, 2 of them count, 1 doesn't count, and you won't know which one. Okay? So you got to treat them all as if they count. But you can also have in the back of your mind, hey, wait a second, maybe that one doesn't count. Let me tell you a quick story. So, you know, I went in to take the exam, and Veritas said, listen, David, go get a perfect score. That was the instructions. They said, go get a perfect score. So I said, all right, I need a 170, right? So I was getting either 169 or 170 on all the practice tests, you know, so that was good. I got into the exam, and I got 3 quantitatives. Now, one of those quantitative sections didn't go quite as well, and I thought, man, I've missed like 2 questions on there possibly. Well, you're only allowed to miss 1 question total to have a perfect score. So, you know, I can't miss 2 of them on that. So I said to myself, that is the one that doesn't count. So leave yourself that room for optimism. Okay, treat each section like it counts. Do your best. But if you maybe don't get to a few questions, there's 4 or 5 questions you don't get to, then don't pack it in. Don't say, oh, I'm messed over, it's all over. Say, that's the one that didn't count, and fight hard on the next one. And it turns out I was right. That was the section that didn't count. The 2 that counted, I only missed 1 question, so I got that perfect score, and I didn't have to go back in and take that thing again. It could be the first quantitative, absolutely. Yes, Cheryl, it could be the first quantitative. It could be the second one, it could be the third one. You will not know which one it is. Okay, but it's one of the 3. Obviously, in this case, both verbal counts. In that case, both verbal counts, for sure. Okay? The sections are adaptive between sections. Okay? So how you do on the first section determines the difficulty of the second section. So the GRE only adapts to you once on each. Once on verbal and once on quantitative. That's it. So how you do on the first verbal identifies how what level of questions you get on the second one. The GMAT is the one that goes question by question adapting to you. But on the GMAT, you can't go back. Okay? Oh, Tate, here's what happens. You get your first section, and it's called the routing. Like a router, it's called the routing panel. So it routes you. So if you do well, you get the hard one. If you do medium, you get the medium. If you do a little bit less, you get the low. Okay? So this one's kind of middle. The routing's like a middle type of level. If you do well enough, you get the hard one. If not, you get the middle one and then the low one. But it only adapts once, and this allows us to move back and forth within the section. We're allowed to move back and forth within the section. If this adapted question by question, you could not go backwards, forwards, skip questions, flag questions, come back. Everybody's aware of this, right, on the GRE? There's a few great things about the GRE. You have a calculator, number 1, which is great. Number 2, you can move backwards, forwards, flag things, skip questions entirely. I know people that start sections in the middle because they prefer to begin with, I don't know, sentence equivalence or something, or reading comprehension, or they like to start off with the data analysis. So you've got all kinds of options on this exam that you wouldn't have if it adapted and did something different. So the scoring is analytical writing is from 0 to 6. Verbal reasoning is 130 to 170. Quantitative is 130 to 170. Hey, we're into verbal. You guys ready? Here we go. Text completion, sentence equivalence, reading comprehension. These together are 10 out of the 20 questions on each section. And then reading comprehension is 10 out of the 20 questions on each section. So text completion, sentence equivalence first. And we'll be able to talk about this one on page 17 and then page 19. So here we have a 2 blank text completion. And here's what I'm going to do. And this is why we use this format and not the others. I'm going to open this up to allow you to have multiple choices here. Okay? You're going to answer one of these 3 and one of these 3 in the poll. There is no submit button. The minute that you put the answer in, it's submitted. Okay? So when you put your answer in, I can see it, consider it submitted. Okay, so I'm also going to put a timer up. Let me just give you 90 seconds on this. One answer for blank 1, one answer for blank 2. Okay, just pick one of A through C, one of D, E, F. This is page 19. 90 seconds. All right, well, I guess you didn't need 90 seconds, and that timer was kind of giving me some trouble, so now we got it started. All right. Oh, I was broadcasting the results. Well, that's beautiful. Sorry about that. Don't worry, I will not broadcast the results next time. So you shouldn't have been able to see everybody else's answer. It's just one of those great mornings where these things happen. You won't see other people's answers in the future, okay? You won't even see. Yeah, it makes it easier, huh, Tate? When you can see everybody else's answer. I was like, wow, these guys are great. Almost everybody answered the correct ones. So let's just not broadcast those anymore if we can help it, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I know, I'm having some fun. I hope you guys are having some fun. Now that we're into it, it feels better. Okay, let's take the exam together. Phone a friend. Phone a friend. All right, things are going better now. All right, so here we go. Because the artist previous, it was touch and go for a minute there. About an hour ago, I was like, what's happening? Okay, we're better. So because the artist's previous body of work has been so blank, critics were unable to grasp the blank in her later, more refined work. So we're going to talk in 1 week about a couple of things, okay? And that is, we want to think about process of elimination, we want to think about filling in the blank ourselves, and we want to think about transition language. Transition language. So PFT, process of elimination, fill in the blank, and also transitions. Okay, and then there's one more thing. When there's more than one blank, you really want to figure out how the blanks relate to each other. Okay, so we'll talk about this process of elimination in just a second. We'll talk about the fill in the blank, the transitions. But right now I want to talk about how these two relate to each other. Because the artist's previous body of work had been so blank, critics were unable to grasp. So that's pretty clear that we're talking about a transition here, right? So what we're going to say is that these two are going to be the opposite of each other. I draw this when I'm saying these are going to be the opposite of each other. So blank 1 is the opposite of blank 2. Blank 1 is the opposite of blank 2. Okay? So that's what we're saying, is that these two are going to be different. If you can pick one of them, you go for the opposite, you've really got the other one. Okay? So fill in the blank. You know, for this one, I wouldn't really try to fill in the blank myself. There's a lot of these questions where, you know, a word seems to really pop up for you. With this one, it's more like how they're relating to each other, and then, wait for it, boom, right here, more refined work. Now we can fill in one of the blanks. So the critics were unable to grasp the blank in her later, more refined work. So blank number 2 should be more refined. Well, grandiose is not more refined. Grandiose is less refined. Grandiose is neon lights, it's loud, right? So this is not more refined. Now, subtlety is more refined. So we filled in the blank using some words from the text. We've used the transition to see how they relate to each other. Now, how do I use process of elimination? Well, let's say that you don't know the word diffident. Okay? Let's say you don't know the word diffident. And we're going to talk about this big time next week, but I'll actually have you in lesson 3 tell me which words like you don't know, how many words you do know. Because if you know 2 out of 3 words with process of elimination, you should always get that blank right. You focus on the 2 words you do know. Okay? If you know delicate and you know brash, focus on those. Don't focus on diffident. If you know delicate and brash, those are the ones you're going to focus on. You're not going to focus on diffident. Okay? You don't even care what diffident means. Listen closely. Focus on the words you do know. Don't even speculate on the ones you don't know. Because if it is one of the 2 that you know, then you just pick it. And if it's not one of these 2, you pick this one. The key to text completion and sentence equivalence is to focus on the words you do know, not the words you don't know. And if it's one of the words you do know, you just pick it. And if it's not, you pick the other one. So what would be the opposite of subtle? Well, that's brash. So it doesn't even matter what the word diffident means, because brash is the opposite of subtle. So it's one of the words we know, so we don't have to worry about the word we don't know. That's how process of elimination is going to work. In fact, let me tell you this. If you know 4 out of 5 words, because a typical text completion, if it has 1 blank, it has 5 words. If you know 4 out of 5 words, you should get the right answer almost 100% of the time, because you focus on the 4 words you know, not the one you don't. So, like I said, we're going to get into this big time next week, but you're going to be able to get more right answers. What does diffident mean? Diffident is somebody who kind of isn't pushy. They take direction. They're, you know what I'm saying? They're sort of more humble, quieter. What do you guys think? Does anybody have a good definition of diffident for me? Humble, quieter, takes direction. Not indifferent. I don't think it's indifferent. I don't think that's diffident. Who has a good definition? I see some typing going on. Modest or shy because of a lack of confidence, Jose. That's what I just saw as well. That's what I just saw, right? Okay. Yeah. So, Anne, that's what the skill builder's about, and I'll say that as well, Zidane. That's Yahoo's better. That's what the skill builder's about, is about breaking the words apart. I also have some word lists that I'm going to send you guys. I have an email that I'm going to send you right after class, so I have some word lists for you guys to look at as well. Okay? So, yeah, you do need to know some vocabulary. But what I'm saying is this. You're never going to know all the words. If you can get to over half of the words, then I can get you a good score on this with strategy. But yes, you will have to look up some words. You will have to memorize some words. There's quite a bit that you're going to need to do. For some people, this can be the toughest part of the exam. I have not received any emails from previous conversation about moving us to this room. So it's whatever email that you put in the Veritas account, and it's whatever email you put in the Veritas account. So that's where I sent the emails. You can just let me know at the end of class, okay? Just look through your emails during the break and you can just let me know. No, Zidane, it's not necessarily that. You have to continue to improve your vocabulary for sure. The words that I send are going to be helpful. but I'm not going to guarantee that that's enough for the section. Here's the thing, Zidane, as you do practice problems like in the, well, this is the quant one, but pretend this is the verbal one, Zidane. Pretend this is the verbal book. As you do questions in the book, you're going to learn new words. As you take practice tests, you're going to learn new words. Okay? Try to learn some new words, not only from lists, but maybe as you're reading something. Oh, look at that. The words you particularly want to look for are adjectives, number one, and particularly adjectives that have to do with people. They love adjectives that have to do with people. So you can see right here, these are adjectives that would modify people, right? A person could be brash. A person is diffident. A person could do something delicate. A person could be subtle or grandiose or tactful. These are adjectives. And they're the kind of adjectives that would work well with people. So these are exactly the thing you want to study the most. It's less important to have nouns. Verbs could be good, but adjectives are the best. Adverbs are good as well, but adjectives are the best thing to study. We're going to learn how to use PFT, okay, process of elimination, fill in the blank, and transitions to maximize your vocabulary, the points you can get with your vocabulary. You're going to want to start those vocabulary quiz that I send you. You're going to want to start those lists, those quizzes / lists, as soon as you can. And you're definitely going to want to look at the skill builder before next Saturday, so you can try to break things down. For text completion, focus on transition and structural language. Pay attention to subtle adjectives and adverbs that change meaning. Process of elimination, that's the one. And then sometimes just pick one. Sometimes you have to kind of see how that goes. But again, we'll look at all of that next week. Let's look at sentence equivalence now, which is number 2 on page 21. So you see now with sentence equivalence, we have 6 words. You're going to pick the 2 words that give you the same meaning for the sentence. The 2 words may or may not themselves have the same meaning. These 2 words may or may not have the same meaning themselves, but they need to give the sentence the same meaning. Okay? So if you don't know one of these words, ignore it and focus on the ones you do know. If you don't know 2 of these words, listen carefully. Begin by ignoring. But if it's down to those 2, just try to get a lean in one direction. Just try to say, okay, well, I think this is positive, and I think the other one's negative. Okay, well, do you need a positive or a negative to fill the blank? Okay, I think this one has to do with people and this one doesn't. Okay, do you need something that has to do with people? So you don't have to know the word when you get down to 2 that are, to choose from. You just have to be able to figure out which way you're leaning and go in that direction. All right, so let's give this one a try. Let's try like 90 seconds. Remember, transitions, maybe fill in the blank yourself, and then, 2 answers that give you the same meaning, and I will not be broadcasting the results, so you're on your own. Pick 2 of these, A through E. Cheryl, should we not look at the answer choices when we initially read? And so I read the sentence. So here's what we can do. Okay. When there's 3 blanks and there's 3 words, so that's 9 words. When there's a 3 blank question with 9 words, I will sometimes look at the words first. Okay? This is, what book or lesson has these questions when you said page 21? Right, so this is all from book 1, Ann, right? I mean, this is all from Foundations of GRE Logic. So everything we're doing today is from book 1. Okay, so I will look at the answers when there's 9 words, and if I don't know at least 5 of them, then I could save that question for later. But that's only when there's 9 words. And again, we'll talk about that next week, but when you have to fill in 3 blanks, if you miss any of them, you get no credit. When you have to fill in 3 blanks, if you even miss 1 word, you might as well have not answered it at all. So there's actually a high probability of missing a 3 blank question. If the words are tough, I'll save that one for later. But otherwise, Cheryl, I don't look at the sentence. I don't look at the answer choices first. I look at the sentence first. So when you say, should I try to put a word in there, sometimes a word will pop in, and sometimes it won't. So you kind of let that happen a little bit naturally. You'll have to figure out, what works the best for you. So on this one, did anybody have a word that jumped up for them on this one? Their work is more blank. So, impacted by the forces of globalization and climate change, American farmers have a less efficient existence. Less efficient. Less efficient means more inputs and less outputs, right? Okay, that's a good word. Okay, hard, difficult. Yeah, you guys are, Rusty's there with that one. Oh, good, Rusty changed to green type. I like it when you guys change the color of your type. It's fun. You can do that in the upper right-hand corner. By the way, I should have mentioned this before, but I was kind of... In the upper right-hand corner, you can also send me a chat directly, and nobody else can see it but me. Again, one of the advantages of the Adobe system is we can do all these different things. You go to the upper right-hand corner, you click on Start Chat with Participant. Start Chat with Participant, and then David. Not Dave, or you'll get Dave in there, but David. So just hit David on the. Now don't go with hosts. Don't go with presenters, because then I can't respond to you because you're not a host. You won't see it. Okay? And if you do happen to email Dave, Dave will do his best. And by the way, if you send an email to me and you accidentally email the famous Canadian folk singer David Newland, he's very polite, and he will definitely, David Newland, the folk singer, will definitely get back to you with my email address. So you can definitely count on that. Okay? All right, so difficult's a good word here. I'm not kidding at all, Leonard. I'm not kidding at all. David Newland, the folk singer, the Canadian folk singer, is a very polite guy, and he's gotten a lot of emails. Yes, that's the email address to send to me, is the email that I sent to you. That's right. That's right, polite Canadian. So, so Tate, you want my Canadian joke? I'll give it to you real quick. So you guys have heard of Canadian Tender, right? You guys know about Tender. You guys have heard of Canadian Tender. You can only swipe right. There is no swipe left in Canada. You can only swipe right. Canadian tender. Is it on page 15 in the... No, Ann, it's in the same order. Oh, it's in the same order. Oh, Canadian tender. I see what you're saying, Rusty. Dave has left the chat. That's funny. Ann, in the PDF, it might be on page 15. It's in the same order, though, I promise. All right, guys, we got to get back on this. I'm in all directions. Okay, yeah, it's the PDF, right? That's it, and it's in the PDF. It's page 15. That's right. So it's going to be the same order, but the PDF pages don't take as much space somehow. You know more about computers than I do, Ann. So when I say page 21, you just subtract 6. There we go. All right, so we know that more inputs, less outputs, so we know it's going to be more difficult. So now we need to look for a word that means difficult. I like to have the books, Cheryl. I like a paper book. But that's how you know I'm not a millennial, is when somebody says that I should take a note, I reach for a piece of paper and one of these pen things, and not my phone. So that's how you know they say that Generation X, we're the people who are known for always having a pen and paper. Gen X, we have a pen and paper, okay? All right, so inputs and outputs. So which word match is difficult? Yeah, Mercedes, just go right with your whoever you worked with Veritas, whoever contacted you. Contact those folks, and they'll get the, if you want the actual books. I like having the books. I personally am a books guy, but some people like the PDF stuff. So we need words that match up with difficult. Okay? How about toilsome? Most of you picked toilsome. Okay? So let's say we don't know what answer choice B means. Let's say we don't know what that means. We don't even know how to pronounce it. We need another word that means difficult. Repetitive is not necessarily difficult. Okay, you've seen this show called The Wheel of Fortune, right? And there's the Vanna White. That's repetitive. She pokes those numbers. That's repetitive. Is it difficult? I've never walked in high heels. I can't tell you. Maybe it is. Maybe high heels make it difficult, right? But, you know, repetitive doesn't necessarily mean difficult. Repetitive does not necessarily mean difficult. Okay, Tate. There we go. Nice work. And that means monotonous does not necessarily mean difficult either. Okay? Monotonous does not necessarily mean difficult. Repetitive does not necessarily mean difficult. Ample. Ample means a lot, but it means a good thing. Remember that. We don't want this to be good. We don't want their work to be more bountiful. We don't want their work to be more ample. Ample means good. We want their work to be hard, right? So guess what? Unless you think indispensable rings the bell, it's going to be the word you didn't know. Process of elimination. Okay, well, we don't know if their work is indispensable. That doesn't rhyme with difficult, does it? The correct answer is going to be onerous. The word you didn't know is the word you're going to pick. The answer is B and D. Onerous and toilsome. Monotonous and repetitive are not necessarily difficult. Ample is a good thing. We're not looking for that. And indispensable is not difficult. Okay, your job could be indispensable without it being tough. Again, think of the Wheel of Fortune. Indispensable, not necessarily difficult. Correct answer is going to be onerous. By the way, you know what onerous means? Onerous means burdensome. So the answer is B and D. Did you see how we did process of elimination there? Did you see how we worked that process of elimination? We found the words that we did know and the one we didn't. Who knows what onerous means? But it's the right answer because the other ones are not. Okay? Oh, that's okay, Rusty. On the test, there must be two answers. There must be two answers. That's what sentence equivalence means. Sentence equivalence means two answers that give you the same meaning. So you have to pick two answers that give you the same meaning. That is the definition of sentence equivalence. So onerous and toilsome both mean difficult. Okay. Boy, this verbal section, huh? Exactly two. That's right, Ann. Exactly two. Okay, exactly two. Not necessarily a higher percentage. Yeah, that's right, Zidane. You have to choose two of these on sentence equivalence, not on text completion. On text completion, you're going to pick one from each. Okay, yeah, that's right. I normally ask at the beginning of class for you guys to answer the following question. But again, we had a little bit of an interesting start to class. So here we go in the chat, in the poll. Okay, there we go. Poll is open. You can answer now. Poll's open. Results are broadcasting. There we go. Broadcasting those results. So who has taken the GRE before? Less than half of the class, that's for sure. So, yeah, we've got some folks who maybe are just getting kind of exposed. So, yeah, 9-4. Twice as many people have not taken it. All right, so yeah, with text completion, it's one word per blank. I'm sorry, text completion is one word per blank. Sentence equivalence is two words, and there's only ever one blank. There's two strategies for sentence equivalence. We're going to talk about this next week. Number one, find a word that seems to work well in the context of the prompt, and see if there's another word that gives the same meaning. So maybe you picked toilsome, and now you're looking for another word that matches that, which is kind of what we did. The second thing you could do is find pairs of words that are synonyms. Now this basically only works if you know all 6 words. If you know all 6 words, then you can group them into synonyms. If there's more than one pair, see which words make sense. So let's say you knew all 6 words on this one. Let's pretend that you knew all of these words. So here's what you would do. You would group them together going like this. Monotonous and repetitive are synonyms. Okay, onerous and toilsome are synonyms. Indispensable has no synonym. Ample has no synonym. So monotonous, repetitive, or onerous and toilsome. If you know all 6 words, I mean, obviously that's a bonus, right? That's to your advantage. But now you know you've got a 50-50. It's not C, it's not E. It's either A and F or B and D. So you try toilsome and you try repetitive and you see which one works. And so you're down to, 2 pairs. Again, that only works best if you know all 6 words. And some of you were going, well, David, if I know all 6 words, then I'm doing well anyway, right? I'm in good shape anyway. In both cases, the context of the prompt is what matters. The context matters. So be sure to look for things like, transition words like less efficient. With sentence equivalence, find two words that give the sentence the same logical meaning. The words themselves may or may not appear to be synonyms, but the sentence has to get the same meaning. Be ready to use process of elimination. We're going to see that big time. And remember, words that are synonyms themselves don't necessarily work. They have to give the sentence the same meaning. In the skill builder, learn vocabulary by doing problems. Sentence equivalence forces you to learn synonyms. Here's how you really want to learn words, not necessarily definitions. If I say toilsome, and you say something like, difficult work, tiring, something like that, okay, that's great. But if I say toilsome, and you say burdensome, onerous, right, difficult, and you come out with those synonyms, that's the winning strategy. So when you're looking a word up, look up the synonyms. That's the best thing to know. Both question types give you context, and remember this, guys. Practice the way you're going to play using words, not just knowing definitions. It's less important to know the definition than it is to be able to use that word properly in a sentence. Reading comp. There are two types of passage structures. One prompt, one question is critical reasoning. If you just get one question, that's critical reasoning. If you get one prompt with multiple questions, that's straight up reading comprehension. There are much more reading comprehension than there are critical reasoning. Now, the ways to answer are multiple choice select one, multiple choice select all that apply, and select in the passage. Again, probably page 18 in your book. Military consultant, which of the following is an assumption required by the argument? So we're looking for the answer choice that we can't live without. That's what an assumption is. We want the answer choice that we cannot do without. Not the answer choice you'd like to have, but the answer choice you have to have. Okay? So number 3 on page 23, I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes. Read this and then find the answer choice that you can't live without. I'll just put it that way. If you can spot a gap in the logic, pick the answer that plugs that gap. All right, 2.5 minutes on question number 3. All right. A third of you with the right answers, although only a little over half have answered at this point. What are you supposed to do with this? Well, the first thing you want to do is identify the conclusion. Then you want to find the evidence. And when we're talking about an assumption, we're talking about the gap in the logic. So the conclusion is this. Consequently, General, you're likely presiding over several security threats you'll never know about. You're presiding over several security threats you'll never know about. Okay? And the evidence is that the chain of command is marred by a serious flaw, and that is that people don't like to report bad news. So, the chain of command has a serious flaw, and that's why the general is likely presiding over several security threats that he'll never know about. Okay? Now you want to say, is there a gap in that logic? Is there something that could come in between having that problem with the chain of command and having security threats you'll never know about? Okay? So is there something that could break down this argument? Right? Let me give you an analogy to this argument. You ready? That news story never appeared on Fox News. Therefore, David's parents will not know about it. Now, what could go wrong with that logic? What could destroy that argument? The story was not on Fox News. Therefore, my parents will never learn about it. What could destroy that argument? ABC could destroy it. NBC, any other source of news. That's right. So, in other words, what am I assuming? What are we assuming about David's parents? What would the assumption be? You guys have the gap. Now remember, close the gap. Close the gap. That's right. You know my parents, Rusty. Cheryl, you know my parents. Okay, Travis, they're remarkably similar to your parents. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's what people of a certain age do. They sit around and grumble, right? They sit around and yell. They yell about things. So that's exactly right. That's the assumption, is that my parents only watch Fox. That's the assumption. That's right. So what do you guys think the answer to this one's going to be? What could cause the problem here? You see that? The chain of command has a flaw. Yeah, so Jose just goes right to C. So the chain of command has a flaw. What if the chain of command is not the only source of information, right? So with an assumption, if you spot a gap, you close it. The answer is going to be answer choice C. Well, where'd we go? The answer is going to be answer choice C. Okay? The general does not have sources other than the chain of command to alert him to security concerns. So, if there was a source other than the chain of command, then this doesn't hold anymore. It doesn't matter that it's marred by a serious flaw. There could be, somebody outside the chain of command. Reporters, or whistleblowers, or whatever you want to call them, right? So answer choice C blocks the problem. Now here's another way that you can get to answer choice C. Check this out. You ready? Negate the answer, and the one that's been negated should weaken the argument. Let's negate this answer. Watch. The general does have sources other than chain of command. No, Tate. No. It mentions not being able to know about the security concerns, right? So this is not outside of that. Answer choice C, that's fine. You can mention that. The general does have sources other than chain of command. If you negate the answer choice, it should weaken this argument. Well, it certainly does. If the general does have sources outside the chain of command, then this argument falls, because the chain of command can have as many flaws as it wants, but the general is going to know about it. It's easier if I mention my parents and Fox News, right? That's an easier analogy. This is a little bit tougher, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Now, why is the answer not A? Because it doesn't matter if the general is responsible for the chain of command, right? It doesn't matter if my parents are responsible for Fox News. It just matters that that's, that's what it is, right? So it doesn't matter if the general is responsible for the culture. It just matters that it's in place. B, all soldiers. Nope, I'm done with answer choice B. Got to tell you guys, the word all is pretty close to disqualifying. That's right. That's it. That if the answer choice negated weakens, that's the correct answer. Exactly, Cheryl. That's exactly it. And that's the reason why answer choice B is not the right answer. Because it says all soldiers near the bottom are fearful of being disciplined. Are you ever assuming all of anything? Right? If I say that this pen is black, am I assuming that all pens are black? If I say that I am troubled that the Marvel Avengers movie was all about a guy who cared about the environment becoming some sort of extreme villain, does that mean that I'm worried about all comic book movies? No. Just worried about the one. Just think that's a terrible message. I think that's a pretty terrible message. The problem is not climate change. The problem is that some guy will get some rings and, people will disappear. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the real problem? I thought the problem was the glaciers melting. The problem is the guy with the rings. I didn't know. I had no idea. The word all is never the assumption. It's never the assumption. If I say that the Los Angeles Lakers will not win next year, am I assuming that they'll never win? No. They could win, just not next year. It's not going to happen. So the words all and none, the words all and none are out when it comes to those, okay? Dave, the Lakers aren't going to win. That's it. They're not going to win. D, some soldiers do not fear authority figures more than they fear genuine security concerns. Answer choice D actually weakens. Answer choice D goes the wrong direction. Remember, you don't want to weaken with the answer. You want to negate the answer and weaken. And then E, there's not a feasible incentive system. We're not talking about hypotheticals. We're talking about what's going on right now. That's why I wouldn't pick answer choice E at all. Because we're saying right now, not could we fix it someday. You see what I mean? Correct answer is C. We're going to wrap this one and take our break. So we take a break. Usually, it would have been 15 minutes ago. We take our break halfway through class. Okay? And by the way, when we come back, we're going to read this one. It's on page 26. That probably means page 20, 21 of your PDF. I also have a link for this in case anybody doesn't have that. So I'll put the link up so you get that. But take your break, then we'll come back and we'll read that one and we'll do some reading comps. Thanks for being patient, guys. We're going to make this thing happen, okay? I put the timer up, Cheryl. And yeah, we give... so Dave, the class should end at 4:30 each day. Today we got started a little bit late, so it's going to be more like 4:45. So we'll be another hour and a half from this, okay? I do 8 minutes on the break. Today you're getting 7. So I'll put the timer up, 7 on the break. All right, guys, we are back. We are back. So here is a, this link has the passage in case you guys don't have the passage. This is only if you don't have the passage. The passage is on page 26 in the paper book, probably page 21 in the PDF. So there's the link to the passage. We have 4 paragraphs here. I would love for you guys to stop after each paragraph and kind of figure out what they're saying. Stop after each of those 4 paragraphs and kind of figure out what they're saying, okay? That's what we're going to learn is the stop technique. And we're going to learn this in lesson number 7, the reading comprehension lesson. And what we're going to learn is how to build our understanding of the passage. So if you can do this for me, if you can stop after each passage, stop after each paragraph. Okay, yeah, page 19. Look at that, Tate. That's crazy, huh? That PDF, they just don't use as many pages. We're already 7 pages shorter. So stop at the end of each paragraph. Main idea, 6 to 12 words. We'll practice this in lesson 7, but go ahead and try it right now. And then we're going to answer like 4 questions on this thing. So give a good read. I'll give you like 3 minutes. You should read that in 3 minutes. Stop after each paragraph, though. Seriously, build that understanding. 3 minutes to read. Since everybody has the PDF now, I probably don't have to worry about that too much. But the other thing that's at that link is video explanations of me explaining a couple of things we don't have time for in class. Okay, I have a lot of GMAT stuff there on that one. I was writing GMAT articles and things for a long time before I realized how awesome the GRE is. So. But if you have things like test anxiety, if you want to know how exercise can raise your GMAT, your GRE score, things like that, look at the ebook that's there. If you go to my website dvgcc.com, there's an ebook there, and while a lot of the articles have to do specifically with the GMAT, things like your lifestyle, right, and the exam, test anxiety, which is sections B and C, those apply very well. So you can look through the ebook that's there on my website, and you'll see a lot of things that, even though it's the GMAT ebook, it applies very well to the GRE. Just as an aside, I had been walking rather than running, and I had not been getting my pulse rate up as high. And you'll see some articles in there about how exercise improves your memory and stuff like that. Also your outlook, your attitude, all those things. And once I started running again, yeah, I definitely got smarter. That's the only way to put it. When I was not running, I was definitely feeling dull. If you get your pulse rate up, you improve your short-term memory in just 3 weeks. That's all it takes. It just takes 3 weeks to improve your short-term memory, 3 weeks of exercise. And it doesn't even take 3 weeks to improve your self-control, your focus, and your emotional health. Whatever you do, if you're exercising right now, do not take a month off, okay? It only takes 1 month for you to become more anxiety-ridden, right? More emotional. If you don't exercise for like a month, you could definitely become more emotional and not as sharp. So definitely exercise. It should actually be a requirement of all world leaders, or at least U.S. presidents. They should have to exercise at least 4 times a week for an hour, and we should have that documented. Because if they don't exercise, they could, for example, have emotional reactions to everything because their emotions aren't there. So I'm just saying, what do we got for each passage here? It's just possible. Yeah, so Cheryl, that's what we're doing right now. That's exactly what I'm doing. So good lead in. So Cheryl says, what about stopping at the end of each passage? What are you looking for? When you stop at the end of each passage, you're only going for the main idea. That's it, the main idea of the passage. Okay, that doesn't mean that you're looking for, 710 feet, 160 miles, right? You're not even possibly looking for Pacific salmon. You're definitely looking for push-ups, that's right. You're definitely looking for the stopping at the end of each paragraph, the main idea, okay? Sort of like the way that you could summarize a movie in 3 sentences. Anybody want to tell me what movie this is? You want to tell me what movie this is real quick? So there's a guy and a girl, they get on a ship, okay? And one of the... Finding Nemo. There's a guy and a girl, they get on a ship, okay? She's got a fiance, but they fall in love. The boat sinks and one of them lives. I should probably just say the boat sinks and one of them lives. That would be enough, right? Titanic, exactly. Do you guys notice what I didn't say? Dave says they could both have lived. Apollo 13. They both could have fit on that door frame. That's not the first time I've heard that. That is not the first time. But you have to have somebody die for it to have that tragic, you know what I'm saying? It's got to have that tragic. So, Cheryl, yes, write the main idea down. Notice, guys, what we didn't say about the Titanic. Notice what we didn't say about the Titanic. We didn't say the Titanic. We didn't say that word. We didn't say the number of people. We didn't say the year. We didn't say the speed. We didn't even say the iceberg. So what you're looking for is the thread of the passage, right? So the thread of the passage is what you're going for, not the fact. So Cheryl, let's look at what I said about these. So for the first one, I said many eastern dams are older, smaller, not useful, and hurt fish. Many eastern dams are older, smaller, not as useful, and they hurt fish. Second paragraph, I said western dams are bigger and also hurt fish. Fish ladders work a little bit. Third paragraph, well, you can see what's going on right there. Many eastern dams and some western dams should be removed. And the final paragraph, of course, is an example of a big western dam to get rid of. An example of a big western dam to get rid of. Okay? So that's what we've got. That's the main idea. Sure, Leonard. Paragraph 1. Paragraph 1, I said that many eastern dams are older, less useful, and they harm fish. And the second paragraph, I said western dams are bigger. They also harm fish, although the fish ladders help somewhat. That's all I said. Tate, what do you mean by prioritization? Prioritizing the dams, which ones should be removed in paragraph 3. Prioritization there. How did you tell it mentioned it hurts fishes? As in the eastern U.S., the dams in the Pacific Northwest and California block passage for western anadromous fish species such as Pacific salmon and steelhead trout. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a specific example. They're each a little bit different. Yeah, this is just a specific example, Tate. Okay, select in the passage. All I want you to do is to type 6, 7, whatever words that you think is the author's main point. Okay? What do you think is the author's main point? Just type a few words. Maybe, yeah, I can do it in 6 words. Okay? Now, where I want you to type this is into the answer choices, which I'm now going to open for typing. There you go. It's open. The answer, Glen Canyon must go. I don't know if that's the exact one though, Tate, because I don't know if that's the exact one. No, you're okay, but I want to know what the author thinks. Give me the 6 words or so that the author writes. I want something quoted directly. Because what you're going to do is you're going to click on the sentence. In the actual exam, you click on the sentence. Okay? So give me the like 5 or 6 words that you think is the author's main idea. Okay, we got a couple people that have typed in the right thing. Let me show you guys. Here's what it is. It's pretty close to what Tate put in there. It's right here. These are the words I would have typed in. Make removal the smarter option in most cases. This is what the author is saying, right? Damn those damn dams. Remove the dams. Make removal the smarter option in most cases. We got to remove those dams. Okay? When you click on that, that sentence will light up. That's what happens on the actual exam. They'll ask you to click on a particular sentence or phrase. You click on that, and that's what's going to light up. That is the main point. The part about the Glen Canyon Dam is an example of something to be removed. But the bigger point is this. In Lesson 7, we'll talk about identifying the main idea. But the action, whatever action they want you to take is the main idea. Certainly the Glen Canyon Dam is a good point, but it's an example of the bigger point. Okay. Let's do something a little more usual. How about a multiple choice? Now, I didn't say easier. I said just more typical. So now we're back to A through E. You're going to want to go back to the text and look at this. Look at the answer choices and figure out which one, in comparison to Western dams, what's true about Eastern dams. Let me give you 90 seconds. You're going to want to go back to the text and make sure you're right on this, okay? So multiple choice, number 5, A through E. All right, good. Almost 50% with the correct answer. Details matter on this, okay? So is it true that eastern dams cause more problems in blocking fish habitat? Let's start right there. Well, we see that they block the eastern anadromous fish runs, but the western dams block the anadromous fish runs as well. There is no comparison between the two. So answer choice A is out because more problems, more money, more problems, right? The western dams are more money, more problems. So the more problems we can't say because there's no comparison. B, are used more often for powering factories and mills. Well, it doesn't say that. It does say that they were built for that purpose, but the western dams can power factories and mills as well. The answer is either going to be C, D, or E. So this is really where we're looking right here. Okay. Now, if you look at answer choice E, there's one word I need to look at here. Catastrophically. You can, if I, sometimes I share the results. See, then you can see that. Are more likely to fail catastrophically. Well, if you look back at this, it actually says that because of the age of these smaller dams, most are now at risk of catastrophic failure or partial failure. It's kind of like if you get that mailer, you get that thing in the mail and it says you've won a new car or other prize. You've won the other prize, not the new car. Right? I'm just here to tell you, you've won the other prize. So when this says catastrophic failure or partial failure, they may not really be at risk of catastrophic failure at all. They could all be partial failure. So when answer choice E says are more likely to fail catastrophically, well, we don't know that. Okay? Catastrophically or partially. Or partially. You didn't win the car, you've got the other prize. The answer is either C or D. And the key to this one is it says are generally. Are generally. So that means more often than not. Generally means more often than not. Okay? So are they generally? Well, when we look at this, we can see that many of the dams in the eastern U.S. are smaller and older. Are older. But look at this. In the western U.S., most of the dams are larger projects than the eastern. So the dams, most of them are larger. That means generally. As far as the older in age and less useful, that refers to many. Many is not most. Most has a meaning to it. Most is 50% plus. Many, well, what does that mean? 3? That would be a lot. If 3 dams were to fail catastrophically, I would say that's many. Right? If you survived 3 plane crashes, that would be many. So the correct answer for this one is going to be answer choice C. Generally smaller in size and scope, because it says most of the western dams are bigger. So we know that they are. That would also be very impressive. That would be extremely impressive, wouldn't it? That would be bad luck. That would be super bad luck. This class almost didn't happen for 2 reasons. The first reason being, of course, the craziness that we just did with the, getting logged in. The second reason is I had to fly back from Atlanta, Georgia to Boston and then drive back here. And there was some kind of glitch at the airport in Atlanta, so apparently I just made it out. I don't know. All right, select all that apply. I hope there was no airplane crash. I hope not. I hope not. According to the passage, which of the following can be concluded about western dams? This one is select all that apply. Okay? So what you're going to do on this one is it's got to be at least 1. When we select all that apply, it's got to be at least 1. It could be 2. It could be 3. So you have to evaluate each of these 3 statements individually. Okay? So this is question number 6. Was it national? It was nationally. Wow. Wow. That's something. I wonder which foreign government did that. All right, so let's do this. It's at least 1. It could be all 3. Okay? Cool, guys. Number 6. Okay, let me show you these results. Fewer people went for B, and I agree that B is not there. When we look at this, we can see that they've been largely ineffective in mitigating the negative effect on salmon, although they've worked somewhat for steelhead trout. So we're going to cross off B because it doesn't say they've not had a detrimental effect on steelhead trout. It says they've worked somewhat to help the steelhead trout, the ladders. But somewhat doesn't mean that there's been no detrimental effect. Are western dams responsible for the conditions that cause at least some species to be considered endangered? Or some western dams have been harmful to water quality, or both? Well, I think we can say yes to answer choice C. Let's check that one. Let's see if we can say yes to C. So one example of a bunch of western dams is the Glen Canyon Dam, the negative effects it's had on water quality. So yes, negative effects on water quality, but what about answer choice A though? Has eliminated more than 160 miles of habitat for endangered Colorado River fish species. Do you know why I'm going to say no to answer choice A? It could have been A because it's all that apply. It could have been A and C, but it's just A. You know why? Because it says caused. Western dams are responsible for conditions that have caused at least some fish species to be considered endangered. It didn't say that. It's very detail-oriented, this reading comprehension. This reading comp is very detail-oriented. We need for it to actually say, it says that the species is endangered, but it doesn't say that the dam caused that species to be endangered. Okay? It doesn't say that the dam caused the species to be endangered. That's what it would need to say. So the answer is just going to be answer choice C. With inference trap answers, look out, because tempting but incorrect inference answers often go just a bit too far. Probably are true, but there's not proof in the passage. I am sure that the dam is responsible for the fish to be endangered. I'm sure of it. But we don't have proof in the passage. And then watch out for universal language like all or never. That's very hard to prove. And also watch out when they say two things like X and Y. Reading comprehension strategy. We're going to have the stop strategy in lesson 7. We're going to make sure we stop at the end of each of the paragraphs. And then we're going to know the major question types: function, universal, inference, and specific. All right, finally the quantitative. And we got around an hour of this one. Multiple choice, select one. Multiple choice, select all that apply. Numeric entry, and my favorite, which is quantitative comparison. So let's start with multiple choice, select one. This is the most familiar to most people. So you're going to pick one out of these 5. Okay, let's give you a couple minutes. This is going to be some straight math, I think. We've got some math going on here. Question 7. Let's do a couple of minutes. Pick one. So there is some information in some boxes and stuff. You can definitely flip back through the lesson book to see if there's anything that we're leaving behind. But I think I'm getting most of what's there. If there's some problems we don't get to, then you could obviously go to those. So on this one, we've got about a little over half with the correct answers, more than half with the correct answers right now. Certain box contains 14 apples, 23 oranges. How many oranges must be removed? So that's the question. So we have 23 oranges, okay, minus the ones that remain, gives us the number removed. 23 oranges minus those that remain give us the number that are removed. How many oranges must be removed from the box so that 70% of the fruit will be apples? So 7 out of 10 needs to be apples to total. Right? Apples to total, 7 to 10. Now, we know that 14 apples are going to remain, so let's create a proportion. So 7/10 of the fruit will be 14 apples over the total amount of fruit. So this is our proportion right here. So we can cross like this and we can go 7t equals 140, right? And that means that t equals 20. You could also just recognize that you doubled the 7 to get to 14 and the 10 to get to 20. So 7t is 140 and then t is 20. So the total fruit is 20. That's not the correct answer. And 14 is not the correct answer because that's the number of apples. Now what we need to do is we need to say if it's 20 total fruit and 14 are apples, we need 6 oranges. That's the 6 oranges that remain. That's the 6 that remain, and that's going to give you 17. The number removed, 17. Correct answer is D. Okay? So that's a little multiple choice, one correct answer. How did you remove 6? 6 is how many remain. 6 is how many remain, right? Because we need 20 pieces of fruit. And 20 total minus 14 apples, 6 oranges, right? But the question says how many must be removed. So 6 is the number that remains, and that's 17 removed. So that's why 6 is a good trap answer, because 6 is the number of oranges, and then that means we remove 17. No, it's okay, Tate. We established that we needed 20 fruit based on this, Tate. We know that we need 7 out of every 10 pieces of fruit. We need 7 out of every 10 pieces of fruit to be apples. That's what it means to have 70% apples. So apples to total is 7 to 10. Now you know that you have 14 total apples, because they tell you 14 apples. So 14 over t, right, is apples over total. You see, this is our labels over here. The labels stay the same. The labels stay the same. So 14t, well, 7 to 14 is doubled. 7, 14, rhymes, divine, maniac, brainiac, wind of the game. I'm your lyrical Jesse James. 7, you go from 7 to 14. You go from 7 to 14, right? And then you go from 10 to 20. Yeah, that's it, Leonard. Exactly. So 7 times t, you cross multiply 7 times t. And then 10 to 14. Good, Rusty? Are you good? Okay. All right, now we're going to do select all that apply. So for this one, you got to have at least one, and it could be up to 2, 4, 6, 7. It could be up to 7 of them, right? So I think we should mention before you guys go prime numbers. Before you get into this, we should mention prime numbers. So what are the, let's say the first 4 prime numbers, just to help people out. What are the first 4 prime numbers? One is not prime. Thank you. That's right, Ann. And I think that's going to help out a bunch of people. Ann's really going to help us out, guys. The number 1 is not prime. 9 is also not. The first are 2, 3, 5, and 7. That's the first 4 primes. Okay? 1 is not prime. All right, let's have you guys try this. Let me give you 2 minutes on this one. Give it a shot, okay? Now that we know the first 4 primes, that should help out a bunch. All right, there are no negative prime numbers, so A is out. There are no negative prime numbers. So you cannot add. So the sum means we're going to add them together, right? The sum means we're adding them. So the sum of 2 prime numbers can never be negative. It can't be B because 1 is not a prime number, so you can't have 2 plus 1. Answer choice C. Yeah, that's the one that has the most. Now remember, we're selecting all that apply, so you don't have to stop here. C works, but keep going. 11. No. No. 9's not prime. If we thought 9 was prime, we would have said 11 because we would have said 9 plus 2. 13. Can we get to 13? Yes. Because 11 is the next prime number. So 11 plus 2, so 13's in. 14, 11 plus 3, so 14's in. 23, no. 23, no, because 21's not prime. 21 plus 2. So what would really help you out on this question would be to realize that the only way to get an odd result of addition is to have an odd number and an even number. Okay? Now, the only even prime number is 2. The only even prime number is 2. So, to get an odd result, such as 3, 5, 11, 13, or 23, you're going to have to add something to exactly the number 2. Okay, some other prime number gets added to 2. So, 2 plus 1, 1's not prime. 2 plus 3, yes, because 3 is prime. 2 plus 9, no, 9's not prime. 2 plus 11, yes, 11 is prime. 2 plus 21, no, 21's not prime. And then, of course, 14 works as well. So if you know a couple of number properties, like 2 is the smallest prime number, it's the only even prime number, to get an odd result, you have to add an odd plus an even. You put a couple of those number properties together, and you make a question like this work very quickly. This is the kind of thing we'll be learning throughout the course. How to use number properties to make things happen for us. Okay? Questions on that one? Yes, to get an odd result. That's right. That's right, Cheryl. So look, 2 plus 3 is odd, 3 plus 3 is even, and 2 plus 2 is even. So I call this one the odd couple. Exactly, Zidane. That's right. Okay, now here's numeric entry, and I'm going to give you something to think about while you look at this question, and that is that work equals rate times time. Work equals rate times time. The work is usually equal to 1, as it is in this case, because you can finish a job, which means that 1 is equal to rate times time, which means 1 over the time equals the rate. Just read through this and see if you can make some sense of that. I won't give you too long on this. I don't want you guys to spend a lot of time here, just in case it's not going your way, but just 90 seconds or so. Let's see if you can get to an answer. If you can, type one in. We'll look at it together. So the W is the amount of work. So on some questions, Rusty, they'll say 500 widgets. And then the work is 500. If it's distance equals rate times time, you could drive 50 miles and the distance would be 50. For work rate problems, though, most often the work is 1. You're going to fill up 1 swimming pool. You're going to do 1 job. Okay? You're going to have 1 production lot, whatever it is. So normally you're going to have 1. So what ends up happening is this. If it takes you 7 hours to complete the job, okay, then watch. 1 job and the time is 7 and the rate is R. That means the rate is 1/7. Okay? What is 1/7? 1/7 of the job per hour. If it takes you 7 hours to do a job, then you do 1/7 of that job per hour. Okay? 7 hours to do a job means 1/7 of that job per hour. That's what the rate is. In this case, it takes 20 hours. So work equals rate times time. The work is 1 job. The time is 20 hours. And that means that 1/20 equals, now listen, it doesn't actually equal R because it's actually 3 machines. So this is actually 3 times the rate. Okay? So this is actually 3 times the rate because R stands for the rate per machine. Rate per machine. So we divide both sides by 3 to get the rate itself. When you divide and you divide again, then you multiply these two. So the rate per machine equals 1/60th of the job. Listen carefully and think about the logic. 3 machines take 20 hours. That means 1 machine would take 60 hours. 3 machines, 20 hours, 1 machine, 60 hours. That means the rate per machine is 1/60th of the job per hour. Okay? Now, 10 machines, each doing 1/60th, means that they would do 10/60ths per hour. That means they would do 1/6, right? That means the total hours is 6. That means the total is 6. Couple of folks got all the way there. A couple of folks got really close. Now, why would 1/6? Yeah, so the last part is this. You ready? So 1/6 is now the rate. 1/6 is the rate. So now we go work equals rate times time. 1 equals 1/6 T. 1 equals 1/6 T. So that means that you multiply by 6 on each side. T equals 6 times 1 equals 6. Whenever you have the time or the rate, just flip them because they are inverse. If your rate, how did you get from 1/60th to 10? Because there are 10 identical machines. So that's why we multiplied by 10, because there are 10 identical machines. Okay. So that is the numeric entry. You just have to get the answer and type it in. Yeah, so Leonard, it's usually 1. W is usually 1, right? 1 job. But like I said, you could make 500 widgets. Like 500, I don't know, plastic combs. 500 plastic combs, right? So then the work would be 500. Then the work would be 500. Exactly, Leonard. That's right. Exactly. All right. Here comes quantitative comparison. So this one's going to be cool right here. Quantitative comparison. So they'll give you some information up here that's always true. Or sometimes they won't, but if they give you any information, it's always true. You have quantity A and quantity B. Now look at these answer choices, please. Look at these answer choices. If the answer is A, then quantity A is greater always. If the answer is B, then quantity B is greater always. So Cheryl, that's the part that I walked through. Watch this, Cheryl. That's the part that I walked through. Look, your rate is 1/6, right? So now the work is 1 and the rate is 1/6. So work equals rate times time. So the work is 1 and the rate is 1/6. Well, if you multiply 1/6 times 6, that gives you 1. So remember, rate and time are inverse. This means you can do 1/6 of the job per hour. If you told me you could do 1/6 of the job per hour, I would say, oh, okay, so in 6 hours you've done the job. So they're always the inverse. If 1/6 per hour, then you need 6 hours. If 1/7 per hour, you need 7 hours. That's why. No, it's okay. It's okay, Cheryl. Why would you fire me, Tate, if I took 6 hours? Is that why? Because I take too long? 6 hours is too long? 7 hours? So on this one we have quantity for the quantitative comparison. So it's okay, Cheryl. We got to make sure we know these things. We got to make sure we know. So A, quantity A is greater always. That's what A means. Okay? So whatever's here, if this is X, then X is always bigger than Y. If it's answer choice B, quantity B is always greater. So that would be that Y is always greater. If it's C, the two quantities are always equal. Always equal. If the answer is D, then that means the relationship cannot be determined. What answer choice D means is that you get more than one of the two. So check this out. We write A, B, C, D like this. We write A, B, C, D like this. Okay? Now, if you can get just one of these, like if you put a check mark next to A and that's all you get, then that means A is always greater. But if you could prove that B could be greater, like Y could be greater than X, then you'd put a second check mark and you'd circle D. Because that means the relationship cannot be determined. When you pick answer choice D, what you're saying is you get more than one of the three up here. Let me walk you guys through this. The first thing we always want to do is put the core number properties up here so we never forget positive, negative, non-integers, 0, and 1. The next thing is we always want to write A, B, C, D, like that. Okay, now, we know that X has to be a positive integer, which means if you look at the core number properties, positive, negative is out because it can't be negative. Non-integer's out because we're told that it has to be a positive integer. 0 is out because 0 is not positive. Well, we've still got the number 1 to think about. Okay, so let's hold off on that for a second. Now, the first thing we want to do on a question like this is just pick a positive integer. Just see what happens. Let's just pick 2. My favorite numbers to pick are 2, 3, and 5. I just like to pick those. So let's pick 2. So let's say x is 2. How big is x cubed? If x is 2, how big is x cubed? So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. That's it, Dave. So if x is 2, x cubed is 8. That's exactly right. If x is 2, x cubed is 8. So obviously 8 is bigger than 2. So b can be bigger than a. So we know that. Put a check mark next to b, cross off a and c. The reason I crossed off a and c is because, remember, for the answer to be a, quantity a has to always be greater. Quantity a is not going to always be greater here because we've already shown that b could be greater, right? So that means it's not going to be a. C means the two quantities are always equal. Well, they're not going to always be equal because 8's bigger than 2. The answer is either B or D. Okay? The answer is going to be B or D. That's what you're left with. Two answers. B or D. That's it. So as soon as you prove one of these things, you put a check mark next to that, cross off the other two, and then it's that one or D. Okay? So if you show that A is bigger, put a check mark next to A, cross these two, it's A or D. In this case, B was bigger, check mark there, cross off those two, it's either B or D. That's the procedure. You're always down to only two answers. As soon as you make one example, you eliminate two answers and you get two left. So now it's 50-50. Okay, but right, so there you go, Zidane, that's right. So now we say, okay, the number 1, clearly something to think about. If x equals 1, then x cubed equals 1, and that makes them equal. Exactly, Zidane. So now you put a check mark next to C, and that makes the answer D. The answer of D means you have more than one of those three. And now we have two. They could be equal, or B could be greater. That means it's not always greater. That means it's not always equal. That means the answer is D. Okay? So again, prove one of the three. Whatever's easier, prove it. Okay, well, maybe you would start with C. Maybe you'd say, okay, x is 1. Let me start there. Okay, well, x cubed is 1. Then you'd put a check mark next to C. You'd cross off A and B. So then you have only two answers left. Then you try, by using the core number properties or whatever else, you try to get one of the other answers. If you do, then the answer is D. And that's what we got here. So we found that it could be B, it could be C. And that means the answer is D. Okay. Let's try this one. We've got an isosceles triangle. We've got an isosceles triangle in this case. Okay, so let's work through this together. Triangle LMN is isosceles. Isosceles means how many angles must be equal for isosceles. So the answer is two or more, right, Ann? At least two angles, at least two. So quantity A is side LM, quantity B is side MN, okay? and angle LNM measures 60 degrees. So if we put a 60 right here, that's the one, LNM is 60. If we put a 60 right there, now let's just go ahead and call the isosceles. Isosceles means two sides are equal, two angles are equal. Let's just call the isosceles this one. So those two are equal. Well, in that case, look, 60 and 60, A and B are equal. So that would give us an equal. So if we come over here, A, B, C, D. By the way, on geometry problems, don't write up the core number properties because they don't matter as much for geometry. Geometry is not going to go negative. There's no negatives in geometry. You see what I mean? So A, B, C, D, we'll write that one up. We're going to put a check mark next to C. The answer is either C or D. Rusty says the answer is C. Okay, so we'll see if that's going to work out. So we can see that we can get a 60 and a 60, and those two sides are the same. Now, what if I make this one up here the 60? What if I make that the isosceles? Those two are the 60. Well, then you're only left with 60, right? So now those two are the same again. It's what Tate said. You get 180 for the total triangle, but look, if you have an isosceles and a 60-degree angle, they all have to be 60. That's it, Rusty. They all have to be 60. That's right. The answer is going to be C because it doesn't matter which one. It doesn't matter which one you pick to have as the isosceles pair, even if you had these two be the equal pair, right? Well, if you take out the 60, you're left with 120. And guess what? 120 divided by 2 is 60. So you end up having all three angles being 60. So it says isosceles, but it means equilateral. It says isosceles, but it means equilateral. It turns out to always be true. Cheryl, it turns out to always be true, yes. But, you know, you've got to learn to prove yourselves all equilateral isosceles. Well, that is true, Rusty. That is true. And if you have an isosceles with a 60, that makes you equilateral. One more thing to think about. One more thing to think about is minimum maximum. Be sure to think about minimum and maximum. Okay? Let's just do a couple more. By the way, the link that I'm going to send you guys in the article to the DVGCC webpage of mine, it stands for David's Veritas GMAT GRE Course Companion. So it's got a big title. These arguments, I go through and I tell you whether these are valid arguments or not. So that's recorded. So you'll be able to check that one out. Okay? Question number 14, which is on this reading comp. I've also recorded that. I just want to do a couple more quant problems and then we'll wrap it up. So let's do 15 and 16. Couple more quant problems. So I want you guys to think about this for a little bit. And this is, you're just going to pick one, A through E, just one. And you're looking for what must be true. It's like inference meets quantitative. So knowing this, which one of these must be true, okay? 2 minutes on number 15. Pick one, A through E. Okay. Interesting question, tricky question, tricky question. We did have somebody pick this lock, but this is a tough one. If x was going to equal y, or if y was going to equal 0, why would they have both? That's our two really good trap answers. Answer choices A and E are the two really good trap answers. Remember, we're looking for what must be true. We're looking for what has to be true, right? So if you take xy equals y squared, if you divide both sides by y, you take xy equals y squared, you divide both sides by y, right? This cancels out, you're left with x equals y. You're left with x equals y, right? So why would they say y equals 0? Why would they say that? Look at answer choice E. Why would they say that? Haha. A just looks so nice. Yeah, exactly, Annie. So you got to watch out about that. But you know, Annie's giving you guys the algebraic definition there. But you could also look at it this way: if y equals 0, then x times 0 equals 0 squared. Of course it does. Anything times 0 is 0. So x equals y. Watch this. Unless y equals 0. Or another way to put this, you're not allowed to divide by 0, guys. The best way to put this is if y does not equal 0, then x equals y. That's the best way to put this. Okay, check this out, guys. Unless you have this, unless you have x times 0 equals 0 squared, unless y equals 0, then you come down here. It's what Annie says. If you're told that y does not equal 0, then you can do this. If you know that y does not equal 0, then you can divide by y. So if we can show that y is not 0, then we need to have x equal to y. Well, answer choice A is out because x could equal 0. Answer choice E is out because y could equal 0. So x could be y or y could be 0. Now look at answer choice B. No, no, no. Again, y could be 0. If y is 0, then x times y would be 0. Now look at answer choice C. If x is positive, then y is positive. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Right? Look. X could be 50. Right? That's positive. X could be 50. And then y could be 0. So x being greater than 0 doesn't mean y is greater than 0. The answer is D. If we can show that y is negative, x will also have to be negative. You know why? Because if y is negative, y is not 0. If y is negative, y is not 0. And if y is not 0, then they're equal to each other. So if y is negative, then x and y are equal. That's why the answer is D. You're going to learn some more about these things tomorrow. You're going to learn some more about this in lesson number 2. A lot of these number properties and great stuff, okay? All right, last one for us is number 16 on page 69. If r is the remainder when positive integer x is divided by positive integer x minus 1. Have you guys worked with remainders recently? Just take a look at this for a few seconds. But no different variables can be the same value, right? No, of course, they can all be the same value. They could all be the same value. Absolutely. Yeah, two different variables could easily be the same value, 100%. Does that give us a problem, Rusty? Okay, we're still good? Okay. All right, let's let you guys take a look at this one about the remainder. Just see if you can kind of figure a little bit about the remainder here. Okay, watch this, guys. Let's go A, B, C, D over here. Let's not forget positive, negative, non-integers, 0 and 1. Also, don't forget about minimum, maximum. Don't forget about the concept of minimum and maximum as well, okay? So, listen, on a question like this, R is the remainder when positive integer x is divided by positive integer x minus 1. Don't think about it too much. Just pick a number. Just pick a number for x. Okay, let's just say x is 5. So positive integer x is divided by positive integer x minus 1. So x is 5, x minus 1 is 4. So 5 divided by 4. Just go ahead and write it out. Just write it out. 5 divided by 4. Well, 4 goes into 5 once, and that leaves you with 1. So that's 1, remainder 1. This 1 becomes your remainder. Okay? So if x is 5, then r is 1. If x is 5, r is 1, that makes them equal, right? The remainder is 1, and then the quantity is 1. So put a check mark next to C and cross off A and B. Now, if we pick a different number, let's try an even number. Let's say 14. Let's say x is 14. X minus 1 is 13. Notice what I did there. 5 is an odd number, 5 is a prime number. Maybe there's something about odd prime numbers. So let's try an even number that's not prime. Let's try 14. Now the divisor's prime at 13. Let's see what happens. Well, guess what? 14 divided by 13 is the same thing. 14 divided by 13 is the same thing. 1, remainder 1. 13 goes into 14 once, 1, remainder 1. Well, that's the same thing. And it looks like we're going to get the same answer. It looks like the answer is going to be C. Okay? Is there any number for x that's going to give us a different result? Is there any number for x for a different result here? Close, Annie, close. The number 1 does come into play for sure, but is x equal to 1? Is it x that's equal to 1? Yeah, exactly. The number is 2. That's right. That's right, Cheryl. That's right, Vanessa. Yeah, and Annie, Ann, it's x minus 1. Exactly. So check it out. If x equals 2, x minus 1 equals 1, and 2 divided by 1 has 2, remainder 0. So now the remainder is 0, which is less than 1. Put a check mark next to B. The answer is going to be D. So minimum, maximum, the smallest number that x could be is 2. It also brought the number 1 into play. Okay? So that's a little taste of it. I mean, that's going to make you guys want to do the skill builders, I think. So that's more about strategy. Tomorrow we'll do a bunch more about math itself. Don't forget Biggie Smalls, Biggie, Biggie, Biggie. Don't forget the biggest and the smallest. So minimum, maximum, Biggie Smalls. All right, let's get the most out of the course here. So do the skill builders. 2, 3, 4, and 6 are the most important. Try to keep up with that homework. Go to the GRE website and look for that Power Prep software. Think conceptually. Try to stick that information in there. Don't mistake activity for achievement. Try to learn, not just do the problems. And remember, you can learn a lot more from a few seconds of pain than from a few hours of glory. You will make mistakes. For some of you, it'll be more on the verbal side. For some of you, more on the quantitative side. But you will make mistakes. Just be sure to learn from them. Okay? So the big skill builder for tomorrow, I'll send you guys an email. I've got the vocabulary lists on that. I'll shoot that email out here in just a minute. And you can start in on that if you want to start those. So the homework, and there isn't homework for this lesson. The homework for tomorrow's lesson is in this book. The homework for tomorrow's lesson is in this book. Okay? So you should already have this, or this should be on the way. If it's not, you better get this one and the verbal one. Got to make sure that happens, okay? The answer was D. So, Leonard, the answer was D because of the number 2 divided by 1, remainder 0. 2 divided by 1, remainder 0. All right, guys, so for tomorrow, the best thing is get that skill builder done. If you've got a chance, get the skill builder done for arithmetic, okay? And use the link that I sent you. We'll get that changed for next week. And I would say check your spam folder. Check your spam folder. Is that IVGGC? Because that's what I see there. Well, I don't know. We have a problem then, because I see that an email went to that exact site. Oh, sorry, Zidane. Yeah, we're good for today. I'm sorry. Yep, we're good. Thanks, Jose. I'm glad we got it. Good question. How much study per day? So you can get by, including, yep, Zidane. It's coming. It's coming. It's right on the way. So you can get by with 20 hours a week, including class, if you're efficient. So I think a total of 20 hours per week, including class, you could get by with that. The skill builder's probably going to take you 6 hours, and the homework's going to take you 6 hours, and then class will take you 6 hours. So I think you could get by with that. Okay. All right, I'm going to end the recording right now, and we'll get the word list going for you guys. Remember, don't use the other link. And so Ann, just send me an email, okay? Yeah, there's no homework for today. That's right. Hold on, I'm giving the email address. There you go. So Ann, you send me an email. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience.